Ingolstadt, Germany. Many people have a history here and a knowledge that others around the world don't have. But that many is small in comparison to what Adam Weishaupt knew. What did he know? What did he keep secret? What did he write in the middle of the night, in the many nights that changed the world?
Okay, my name is Michael Kleiner and I work for the city of Ingolstadt. And of course Ingolstadt is the place where Adam Weishaupt founded his Illuminati, 1776. Unfortunately, there are not so many buildings from these days which you could visit today, which you could see. Of course, there's the university building, the former university, where Adam Weishaupt was a lecturer.
This is the building where Adam Weishaupt finished his studies. Ingolstadt University. This is the old building where Adam Weishaupt lectured and preached the Illuminati ideas for the Bavarian Illuminati, the one that began a worldwide Illuminism ideology. Now it's been turned into a cafe, bistro, bar. Many people believe that the Illuminati died with Adam Weishaupt when he was on the run from the police, while the documents were the only thing left after a thunderbolt hit the driver, the priest, and the horse, killing them all. But it did not kill the paperwork that was left on the side of the road, which the police shortly thereafter picked up and published throughout Ingolstadt, throughout Munich, and other cities in Germany and throughout Europe. Some people think it died with Adam Weishaupt. Others believe that the Illuminati and the New World Order still lives on.
Hello, I'm Fritz Springmeier. I'm an author and I have written a series of books on the Illuminati. One of the well-known books is Bloodlines of the Illuminati.
Question is what I think about the Bavarian Illuminati and whether they died out. The Bavarian Illuminati was a front for the actual Illuminati bloodlines. The Illuminati, through a man named Mendelssohn, got the financing and gave Adam Weishaupt the direction to create the Bavarian Illuminati, which was only one part of a vast organization. And the Bavarian Illuminati itself got shut down, and Mendelssohn's daughters created another organization called the Tugendbund, which means League of Virtue or Band of Virtue in German, Tugendbund. So when we're talking about the Bavarian Illuminati and the Illuminati, we're not exactly talking about the same thing. Bavarian Illuminati would be like one chapter. The Illuminati in Germany continues. So in that sense, yes, the Illuminati continues. The exact organization that Weishaupt created is got somewhat shut down by the Bavarian government.
Do you think that when people in America say there is not an Illuminati, it's a big hoax, how does that play with you in your mind, being a person that knows the history of it?
Yeah, well, you have to separate the real history of this intellectual organization which was founded here, and then the kind of myth and the kind of stories going on the Illuminati. For example, if you read Dan Brown, this is completely different to the real history of the Illuminati here in Ingolstadt. So therefore, nowadays it's a big. I mean, almost everybody knows has heard about the Illuminati, but most people don't know about the historic things, the historic base where the Illuminati came from.
Does the Illuminati make people seem crazy that try to expose them? Yes. I'm not sure how to approach answering that. One of their big tools is to ruin the reputation and the credibility of anybody that would try to expose them. Their own members have been subjected from the time that they were little children to a type of trauma-based mind control, which really, in essence, makes them crazy anyway. So someone who's a member of the Illuminati is going to have mental issues, is going to have issues anyway, so that if they have to be discredited, they can be.
And of course, nowadays it's the big question about world conspiracy and the big secrets.
Do you think that, what is the main difference between the myth and the history to you?
Well, if you regard the legends on the Illuminati nowadays, there's this world conspiracy, and there's the story about it is said Adam Weishaupt, that when he left Ingolstadt, he went to the United States, and he was as George Washington later on. And if you look at the pictures, and then you could find some similarities if you like to find them.
George Washington, although he was very active in Freemasonry, and that helped his career being a Freemason. When he was warned about the Illuminati, he received a copy of James Robeson's book, by the way, that I referred to in a previous question. George Washington was not in favor of the Illuminati. I don't think that he was an Illuminati member at all. One of the characteristics of George Washington that endears me to him was that he did not get drunk with power. Most people get drunk with power very easily. And a lot of people wanted to make him a king or a dictator. He could have easily had as much power as he wanted, but he refused it. And that doesn't strike me as the type of person that you see in the membership of the Illuminati.
But doesn't George Washington's bloodline tie into all these same members, old family members?
George Washington did come from an elite bloodline. That's true. Not everybody that's born into an elite bloodline necessarily is a member. But you're correct. And our first 5 presidents came from the same group of people. And then later on, you will notice that continuing through U.S. history, we have a lot of other people that are closely related to them that became presidents.
So, I mean, the basic thing is the Illuminati here, when they were founded, it was more kind of a circle for students, because you have to understand in these days in the area of the Enlightenment, at the Ingolstadt University there was a very strong influence from the Catholic order of the Jesuits. And so therefore the teachers at the school were not allowed to teach every modern science, because this was kind of censored by the Jesuits. And everywhere around in Europe we've got this age of enlightenment, people to use their own brain, not to be addicted to things that were told by the government, or so they should think by themselves. And in Ingolstadt the problem was the modern science in these days was not allowed at the University of Ingolstadt because of the influence of the Jesuits. And in this circle, Adam Weishaupt, who was interested in this enlightenment, and he wanted to teach everything which was known in these days, and it was kind of he was an opponent of the Jesuits. And then he thought about forming a society, a student society, where he was able to teach his students what he thinks is right, not censored by the Jesuits. And this was the beginning of the Illuminati. Of course, later they changed a little bit in their ideas. They changed a little bit about what they wanted to do. Adam Weishaupt later wanted to reform the whole society, to give them his idea how it should be, and then it became, and then they started to I just try to find a word. They just tried to take over the Freemasons lodges and to gain new members, but on a historic base, they said it's around 1,500 people at all became members of the Bavarian Illuminati, and so this idea of taking over the whole world was not very successful. Because then, only 10 years after the order was founded here in Ingolstadt, it was abolished. The government, they were trying to find writings, trying to find papers on the Illuminati, and then they said they banned the Illuminati, then at least in Bavaria. And the problem was when most of the members, at the beginning they didn't know what Adam Weishaupt wanted to do, his real aims, his real goals. And after this ban by the government, then most of the members only got the information what this society wanted to do, and then, of course, most of them said, we didn't know this, we don't want to support this idea.
Okay, the words esoteric and exoteric are very important for someone to understand if they're trying to understand the occult. There's three words: arcane, esoteric, and occult. And all three words, esoteric, arcane, and occult, mean exactly the same thing. It means hidden knowledge. And in dealing with this, in dealing with the occult, what they do is they create a front, and then behind that front is the reality. And so there will be a front name that they give for their organization, or a front name for a front purpose for something, and then behind it is the reality. For instance, in Freemasonry, you'll notice that they have a square and a compass with a G in it. Well, initially you're told that the G stands for God, but then as you go up through the ranks, they tell you that the G stands for gnosis, which is knowledge. You know, this hidden knowledge that I'm talking about, occult knowledge. And then as you go up into the higher ranks, you know, there's boxes within boxes within this whole setup. Then you're told that the G stands for the generative principle, which means, it means your sexual powers. And I won't get into the sexual rituals, but anyway, it gets rather nasty. Another example might be, you know, let's talk about the Order of Oriental Templars, the OTO, the Ordo To'av is the esoteric name. The exoteric name would be the Order of Oriental Templars. So you know, there's a front to everything is what we're discussing.
There are many offshoots of the Illuminati. Many of them are subdivisions of a greater hierarchy. There are many lower level secret societies, including witchcraft.
What are some of the symbols that the profane would understand one way, but that the Illuminati would understand an entirely different way? Yeah, and I'm not going to make the one sign, well, okay, maybe for just the sake of, you know, this is not something I like to do. I do not like to make their signs, but this sign here, which is very popular, it's got several levels of meaning. a lot of people think that it's just a nice way of saying I love you, but with the left hand, it's not meaning I love you. It's been well known, even by police. I have a police paperwork designed to teach policemen about the occult, and it teaches them that that's a witchcraft symbol. And there are witchcraft books that show that it's a witchcraft symbol. So it's a sign, it's an occult sign representing Lucifer or Satan, but it has even a further esoteric meaning, and that is the programmers use that symbol to take someone to a deeper level hypnotically. So that one time I was just moving my hands, like I get animated when I talk, and it was just by accident that I moved my hands to make that, and I hadn't even raised my hands. I was just moving my hands back and forth on the horizontal level, and I did that with someone that I was working from that had been in the Illuminati, and I tranced them out, because that's the symbol is designed for those people under Illuminati mind control to shift their thinking into a deeper level of hypnosis. And you see that being used a lot nowadays on television, and you see it used a lot by the politicians. In fact, recently, it was about 10 years ago, that's recent for old people like me, that the U.S. Postal Service came out with a stamp with somebody making that sign. When I was watching Clinton being inaugurated, why he made that sign during his inauguration. And you'll notice that other presidents have made the same sign. So that's an Illuminati sign that's got several meanings to it.
I'm in Munich now, and just behind me is the old castle Althoff. It is the oldest, or one of the oldest castles in Munich. And Munich is filled with symbolism, specifically Illuminati symbolism. Behind me is the shield of the king, Ludwig, also his family and the ancient families of Germany, one of which is a symbol above me of the dragon eating a child. It's very interesting, this symbol, what it means. It's also on the back of many cars driving around in Italy on the Alfa Romeos.
It's not sacred, it's just not a sacred place. It's the oldest profane place you find here in Munich. And we have here this great show about one of the emperors of the German Romanic Reich in the 14th century, and he is the...
What's his name?
Ludwig, like all the Ludwig Bavarian kings and so, but he is Ludwig the Fourth and is called Ludwig the Bavarian. But the name of the Bavarian is given to him by the Pope, and it was not friendly to call him so, because an emperor is ruling about a big universe, if you
yes, a big area.
Yeah, you know.
That's okay. No, that's fine.
And he called him the Bavarian just to make him smaller.
To belittle him.
Yeah, and he was always battling And we have here a conflict in the Middle Ages between these two powers, the sacred power and the power of the kings and kingdoms.
The aristocracy.
Yes, at the tower, all the different symbols, and these are always connected to the family. And just like the Wittelsbach had the lion in their family symbol, there is this dragon eating a child connected to a family in Ferrara, and they were married. So in the if you go down all the dynasty, you will find a connection where the Italian family and the Bavarian family get together. So
Yes, so it's interesting because we see the same symbol in the back of the I guess, Prime Minister of Italy, the one that was corrupt. What was his name? Berlusconi. Berlusconi has this giant symbol in the back of his yard where he lives in Italy. So do you think that the Adam Weishaupt was he Luciferian in his doctrine, or was he Christian in his doctrine, being that there are only two different sides, and according to world perception?
Well, I would say he was not Catholic, but he was not also not satanic. I think he was more based on the natural science, not depending on God, on good or evil. So what after the Bavarian Illuminati officially were banned, then it was the myth of the Illuminati was created, and I think these legends on the Illuminati are much more powerful than the organization was itself. But I think it's in the first moment for Adam Weishaupt, I think it's nothing to do with God or devil.
Well, the documents that the Bavarian government seized gave a plan to destroy all of the religions in Europe, religions being Lutheran, Protestant, the Catholic religion. The Illuminati wanted to take people away from believing in God. They wanted to turn people to the occult, but in doing so, the way that they were going to do that was to make people use their power of reason. And the Illuminati, in line with the goals of Freemasonry, because Freemasonry says that there's three thieves that need to be killed, and one of those thieves is the church, and another one of the thieves is nationalism. And of course, if you look at the Illuminati paperwork, the goals that it was stressing was the destruction of both nationalism and Christianity, and replacing that with a world government that would have a Masonic religion to it.
And what is that Masonic religion?
Well, it's different people are going to put different labels to it, but the heart of it's the Kabbalah and witchcraft. And if you go deeper into that, you'll actually find out that, like your earlier question about black magic, it gets into some really heavy stuff.
So, but do you recall the historical event of the horse rider who had the documents of
Yes.
the Illuminati?
Yes.
Is this a historical fact that he was struck by lightning?
Yes, as far
Could
as
you
I
say
know,
that?
as I was, so you mean the story. Yes, I just have to think if it. I think it was yes, it was Adam Weishaupt. Then it was a priest. A couple of priests were member of the Bavarian Illuminati as well, and they made just a stroll outside Regensburg, and then they were caught by thunder and lightning. Just as a coincidence, this priest was struck by lightning. He was dead, and after this, in his pockets, they found papers. Secret documents from the Illuminati, and this was also one of the reasons why the Bavarian government at this point made a strong pressure and trying to find all the Illuminati. They were making raids, trying to get documents, and the Kurfürst, the monarch. In these days, he made something. Every document he took. In this moment he published it, so everybody could read about it. His idea was, this is a secret society, and I take them the secret by publishing their secrets. And this was had a very it was very intense. Trying the government trying to abolish the Illuminati.
But what was in those documents that would cause fear or anger or even criminal action? Because they did arrest Adam Weishaupt, did they not? Historically?
No, they did not. Because he left Ingolstadt. He went to Regensburg, and then later on he went to Gotha with the Duke of Saxon-Gotha-Altenburg. And even later, don't know how many years later, he all became an award from the Bavarian government. He was member of the Bavarian Academy of Science later on. But because he was very young when he left Ingolstadt, but he still lived for another 35 years in the east of Germany.
But what was it that was in those documents when the priests got struck by lightning that caused people to want to be angry? What was some of the basic elements
I'm not so into these details, what was in these documents, but of course you could, most of the documents still exist. You could go to an archive and you could read them. Some are in Ingolstadt as well, yeah. Most of them are Munich in the state archives, but also in Ingolstadt. And because they have been published, so you could, in these days, you could buy them as a book and you could read them. Even you find them on the internet as a digital copy of books. There are several books from Adam Weishaupt with his ideas about making a better society, about helping people to gain more wisdom or things like this. You could read about it.
The Illuminati prior to the Bavarian Illuminati was actually what it is today, and that is you had powerful families, powerful bloodlines back in antiquity. To name the type of bloodline that I'm referring to is Pharaoh, Nimrod, the rulers of Babylon, and in the Far East you would have like Genghis Khan. You will notice that a descendant of Genghis Khan, Tai Wang, was working with the Japanese in 1933. So, people may think, oh, well, Genghis Khan is something of the past, and not realize that in Mongolia, they are still waiting the second return of Genghis Khan because he is worshipped as God. And his descendants have this aura of divinity about them too. Likewise, Pharaoh, Nimrod, they considered themselves gods. The people worshipped them as God. And that's what Illuminati means, is illuminated to divinity. These powerful bloodlines never gave up their control. They as they continued down through the years, they became more obscure. It became harder to pinpoint, but they never gave up their power. And they created a world system where they could, from behind the scenes, be the string pullers. And in antiquity, they were the council, they were the string pullers that controlled the mystery religions. Later, they placed themselves into positions of power to control Christian religions.
The Romans, they killed the Christians. They put them in arenas with lions thousands of years ago. It's not the first time in history that a religious sect or a religious faith was murdered for their beliefs. Many years after that, the Catholic Church also murdered people in its opposition, people who studied Illuminism, people who worshipped witchcraft and many other pagan religions. There's a battle here that is older than many people think. The Brotherhood of the Snake, some say, began back in the Garden of Eden.
When we travel around the world, it doesn't matter what continent we go to, Australia, Asia, Africa, Europe, South America, North America, no matter where we go, we will find that groups, long before they came in contact with other groups, believed in reptilian humanoids. The Christians, commonly in the Christian scriptures, describe Satan and demons in reptilian terms, snake, dragon. But many, many other cultures also have these kind of images for superhuman powers that are running things. So it's very interesting that the logos of these elite families and so many different places throughout Europe use reptilian images, dragons and so forth. And that's probably a subject that is vast. What is the significance of this? What is behind this? It seems far more than coincidence.
This whole Illuminati symbolism from the families, the aristocracy, they have these symbols like dragons eating children, all these strange...
Yeah, but it's just the other way around.
it's a good symbol, a dragon eating a child?
Serpent.
Serpent?
Snake, genau. The snake is you find it here for the symbol for pharmacy, and the snake is getting the child out. It's not eating him. It comes.
Sorry, I don't buy that. Why in the world with a group of people that run a whole area have a symbol of a dragon regurgitating a child? With the
Nee, Mailand, nicht was erzähle ich die ganze Zeit von Ferrara, das Mailand.
This is Visconti.
Oh, sorry.
A letter from Visconti?
Yeah. So you find this symbol of the Visconti family from Milano, Italy, and they say it's a snake or a dragon. What will you say? A snake.
The serpent.
A serpent.
Who's not eating the baby but throwing up the baby.
Yeah.
For what reason?
Giving birth to a baby.
Now maybe you're right. A serpent giving birth to a child. Now we're getting somewhere. What about you say the Viscontis, and what's the German family that they're connected to? The ones?
Here, in this place, it's the Wittelsbach family.
The Wittelsbach, which is Wittlsbach. Wittelsbach. So Viscontis and Wittelsbach are the same family.
Wittelsbach is just the house. It's not a family name. The family name is Bavaria, Bayern. So he is called Herzog von Bayern, the Duke of Bavaria.
I'm going to take this, okay? Can I?
Yeah.
Are you a copy?
I give you a copy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah?
Now let me ask you this: the aristocracy that came from Byron, the Viscontis, and all this mixture. Can I ask you this? Aren't there? Of course, they have generations that continue to live in Germany and Munich today. So there's relatives of these people. Who are those people? Are they still called the same name?
They are still called.
What is their names?
Just like Franz von Bayern. Even he doesn't have any family name because his family name is just Bayern.
Okay. And his symbol is the same as the Visconti?
Not the Visconti. The symbol of the Wittelsbach is the lion.
But the dragon's outside of this building here. It's everywhere.
You have one. Yeah.
But why would the same symbol?
One about this connection, but
So it's on the building here. It must be very prevalent to the families if it's on the outside of their building.
yeah, the family of Visconti.
So what's it mean to them?
So the first, there are two stories. The Milano history is telling about this symbol, connected to the crusade, and there was one person, the leader of the Milano people,
Yes.
called Ottone.
Ottone, yeah?
Yeah, Ottone Visconti, and he it was in Jerusalem. He was fighting against
The Muslims?
Saracen called Voluce, and this Voluce had a symbol with a dragon eating a man. The Ottone, he took his symbol for himself and he reinterpreted it into a snake giving birth to a baby.
Now what reason, now it sounds very interesting, but what reason would a man who has it's like, it would be like when the Americans or when people came, the Germans that loved humanity, killed the Nazis, and they would take their Nazi symbol to use it as a symbol. Why would they take a negative connotation symbol and use it as an aristocracy symbol for such an elegant, quote-unquote, place? To this day, there are only two stories that were derived and ended up being legends. No one knows the real story behind the symbol of the dragon regurgitating the child or eating the child, or if it was a man or if it was a child. It's a guessing game, and the people that represent this castle in Munich have no idea what the real truth is. It seems as though the Viscontis would like to keep their secret a secret.
For me, it's a number like any.
But for
number
others-
else, in today's legend, it's the important number of the Illuminati, of the Bavarian Illuminati. But this is not true. There's one building you could go there. It's in the pedestrian area. There's a building with a number of 23, and it said this was a meeting place for the Illuminati. But this is not really proven. Despite this, there's a small plaque.
A lot of these people is that numerology is extremely important to them, and these numbers are not random. They put a lot of effort into picking them. It's not an accident that the Swiss Confederation went for a long time having 13 states, and then when the United States was formed, they formed it with 13 states, and they had to manipulate things to come up with the number 13 because they could have easily had many other colonies. There were actually some areas like Bermuda that requested to be part of the United States, and they had to be turned down because they had to ensure that they had that number 13. And then when the United States had a civil war, the Confederacy, the Confederate States of America, they claimed 13 states, and their most famous flag, which during the time period of 1863 was actually their national flag. It had 13 stars on it, and yet they had to work at ensuring that they had 13 states, founding states. Originally, of course, they had 7, and then, which is another occult number, and then from 7 they went to 13. So you'll see, like you say, you know, you'll see these numbers, and they definitely do have lots of significance.
Did you know Ingolstadt is the birthplace of Frankenstein's creature? Because according to Mary Shelley's novel, Frankenstein studied here in Ingolstadt, and here in Ingolstadt he brought his creature to life, and from Ingolstadt it started its journey across Europe, and bringing fear and things everywhere else. But according to the novel, it started here in Ingolstadt.
So Ingolstadt is also not only Adam Weishaupt's home, the beginner of the Illuminati, but also Frankenstein.
Yes.
Is there any connection with these two?
There is a connection, because for a long time it wasn't clear why Mary Shelley said Frankenstein should study here in Ingolstadt. And her later husband, Percy Shelley, he was interested in these things of Enlightenment, Freemasonry, and also Illuminati. And the theory nowadays in the literal sciences, because of her husband, he knew about the Illuminati, and he knew about the Illuminati coming from Ingolstadt. This was the reason for her to put her Frankenstein at the first Bavarian State University, 1472. Very early it was quite famous, a lot of famous scientists. It was in these days one of the most important universities in the German-speaking countries. But presumably it was this link connected to the Illuminati, because and we know from the diaries of Mary Shelley, when she read a book by a French ex-Jesuit, Abbé Baruel, and this man, he was fond of the idea that the Bavarian Illuminati were the fathers of the French Revolution, and this was Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley read these memoirs of this French former Jesuit, and this is the link why she knew about Ingolstadt, and this is the reason, presumably, why she had Frankenstein studying here in Ingolstadt.
The golem is just another way of describing what they do to their own children, which is to turn them into mind-controlled slaves. There really are golem, and it's their own people. Frankenstein, the concept of creating a Frankenstein is something that's interested them, and definitely they have spent time studying how to do something like this. Yeah, people in the Illuminati had talked to me at one point about Frankenstein-type experiments that the Illuminati had done.
Jacques de Molay. He was the head of the Knights Templars in the 1300s. He was killed November 22nd, the same day that John Fitzgerald Kennedy was killed. Jacques de Molay, the head of the Knights Templar in the 1300s, was murdered by the Catholic Church according to the Freemason perception. The Christian perception was that he was burnt as a witch at the stake for crimes committed against the Christian faith. Some of those charges were witchcraft, worshiping the devil, and many other charges at the time were considered to be heinous acts.
The Knights Templars are an organization that's shrouded in enigma. They're enigmatic subject because the first Frankish historian to mention them, D. Tyre, said that they got started in 1118, and yet the Count of Champagne, and I might interrupt the flow of my thought, Champagne is a province in France. There's a connection between the Count of Champagne and the Knights Templars. There's a connection between wine and champagne making and the Illuminati. There's a connection between that area of Europe and the Illuminati. Lorraine, Bavaria, the Black Forest, Frankfurt, southern Belgium, like the little town of Brno that I exposed, where the Illuminati have one of their important ritual castles, the Chateau de Amaroi. This whole area of northern France has been very important to the Illuminati for a long time. The 13th Illuminati bloodline goes back to Merovee, and King Merovee was in that area of Europe, and his descendants continued. And so there's a strong connection between that area of Europe and the Illuminati. And so there was a bloodline, this bloodline I'm talking about created an organization to protect it, the Priory of Zion. The Priory of Zion then created the Knights Templars. So there's all these connections, relationships between the Knights Templars and these powerful bloodlines. And then the Knights Templars themselves became very wealthy and powerful in Europe. The story is that the Knights Templars were warrior monks to protect the pilgrims. And that sounds like a good thing, but what you see them becoming is the bankers of Europe. And so King Charles of France decided that he was going to clip their wings, so to speak, and he arrested the leader of the Knights Templars, their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, and the other French Knights Templars that he could get a hold of. He arrested them on Friday the 13th. And that is the origin of why Friday the 13th is considered unlucky. A lot of people consider Friday the 13th unlucky without knowing why it became a symbol of bad luck. It's because the Grand Master of the Knights Templar was arrested that day.
Platz, the place where Adolf Hitler gave his infamous speeches about the New World Order. What did the New World Order mean to Adolf Hitler, to George Bush, and to Adam Weishaupt?
Adolf Hitler and George Bush were both from the Illuminati bloodlines. Maria Anna Schicklgruber, who was Hitler's grandmother, worked in Vienna for the Rothschilds, was impregnated there. Of course, if you can imagine everybody saying, "Hail Schicklgruber," it doesn't sound as good as "Hail Hitler." The name was changed to help hide the lineage. and Adolf Hitler received the name Hitler as part of the efforts to hide the fact that he actually was a descendant of the Rothschilds. And back in World War I, towards the end of it, he received his programming when he was in a hospital recovering. He received programming as to what he was supposed to do, his mission in life. And anyway, his concept of the New World Order was a spatial race would, which was the Aryan race, would lead the world. Interestingly, under George Bush, if we go back historically to Prescott Bush, his grandfather was actually part of the group of Wall Street financiers that financed Hitler to power. So we're looking at two men who don't appear to have anything to the outside world in common, and yet they're from the same group of bloodlines, and George Bush's forefathers helped Adolf Hitler come to power. How the Rothschilds might tie into all of this. The Rothschilds are an extremely powerful family, and we don't want to get caught up in with the looking at the surname Rothschild. I mean, that in itself is an assumed name. They originally, prior to that, were called the Bauer family. So don't get hung up on last names, but these powerful families, and the Rothschilds' secret genealogy goes all the way back to Nimrod. So again, where you talked about exoteric and esoteric, the exoteric name that we have in public for them is Rothschild, but I'm sure that they have an esoteric name to their bloodline too. These bloodlines are connected to these other activities that you're talking about, to Hitler, to George Bush, and without going into great detail, the connections between them all, I'll just have to leave it at that they're connected.
There is a connection. Whether it is Baroness Rothschild wearing her rammed head or goat-headed jewelry in public over and over and over again, or whether she's wearing her satanic goat-headed jewelry, or if it's the Queen wearing the thorns, or Madonna as Baphomet, or Lady Gaga with the horns, or even the First Lady with her left-handed path satanic symbol on her left hand, or once again and again the Baroness. Some light seems to be shining on all of this in our modern days that connects it all. Since Adam Weishaupt, the connection gets stronger and stronger.
Ingolstadt, Germany was not the last place for the evolution of the Illuminati. Adam Weishaupt went to various other cities to escape his arrest from the police in Ingolstadt. After he died, and many years after, including World War II, some of the records were destroyed that were found on that Knight Rider that was struck by lightning in Ingolstadt. They're kept here in Munich, in the vaults. Maybe we can get a greater insight as to what the New World Order meant for Adam Weishaupt.
What I'm saying is this particular symbol, which is outside this building right now, of a child being eaten by a dragon. What?
The other way around.
Oh, regurgitating. Either way, it's strange, isn't it, to say the least? A dragon eating or regurgitating a child? So what reason would they ever use a symbol of a serpent?
Because it's always legends, and there's a second interpretation who is just.
Love to hear this one. What is this?
Yeah.
The people of Mailand recognized that there was a cave wherein a dragon lived, who was a mean dragon. And he was eating the people every day, one or two of them, and they tried to
kill the dragon. But
but
everyone who wanted
failed.
Yeah.
And then there was this man, Umberto Visconti, who saw the dragon eating a child. And during a 2-day lasting fight, he killed the dragon, and gave the beheaded head to the people of Mailand, and then they said, yeah, he's gone.
So Mr. Visconti is such a wonderful person, him and his family, for killing the dragon
Yeah.
and giving the baby back. So let's use that symbol of the dragon regurgitating the baby for 1,000 years.
I think the baby was dead.
Oh, the baby was dead. Yeah. So there you go. It's another excuse for these people to use these symbols, which they know what they really mean. The families know exactly what they mean.
Some sort of symbol
Yeah.
to make the people know I won this battle.
Okay, I beat this battle. You would
Yeah.
say I beat these bastards, but you wouldn't use their symbol for the family names on castles in the middle of, and continue to do so in modern day. A dragon eating a child, and guess where?
Not eating.
Or regurgitating.
Yeah, but that's
Well,
important. That's very important.
why would Italy have the same symbol? They didn't conquer them.
I don't know about the history of Italy, I'm sorry.
But you know who else has this symbol? Not the Maserati, but the one I took. What? No. Alfa Romeo. This is their symbol.
I know.
So why would they use it?
Yeah, because the Visconti family was an important family of Mailand.
Right. So they would use also a symbol that.
Yeah, that's part of their commercial. I don't know.
Commercial dragons eating children.
Yeah.
Fascinating.